Thank you. Welcome, councillors, to the Corporate Performance Committee meeting, 7th of September 2022. I declare the meeting open at 6:37 p.m. Everyone at this meeting is reminded to conduct themselves in a record of council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance. Acknowledgement of country. Bayside Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of this land upon which we meet, who are the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and pays respect to elders past, present and emerging. The people of the Eora Nation, their spirits and ancestors will always remain with our waterways and the land, our Mother Earth. Item number 2, apologies. We have received apologies at this point. I just have to run with the procedural motion because we have Councillor Cedric wishing to participate in this meeting by audio-visual link. If I can please have a motion and second it that the councillor request to attend by audio-visual link be granted. No. Moved by Councillor Fardell. Second. Are you on mute?
He's muted.
He's having, the sound seems to be coming on and off, he's saying.
Sorry, I got you.
Yeah. You're there, okay.
The sound is up and down.
Okay. Thank you. Item 3, disclosures of interest. Does any councillor wish to make any disclosure of interest? We haven't received any prior. Take the silence as no. Item 4, minutes of previous meetings. Can I ask 2 councillors who are present at the meeting to move and second the confirmation of the minutes? Moved by Councillor Fardell, seconded by Councillor Curry. All those in favour say aye. Aye. No, I declare that carried. There's only 2 items, so we won't be doing any by exception. We'll deal with them separately. And there is item 6 is public forum. There are no no speakers registered for tonight's public forum. Item number 7, which is their reports. So we're now on item CP 22.010, which is a tender for Bexley Court renewal. If I can have a mover for that, please. Moved by Councillor Naji, seconded by Councillor Curry. If we can ask the council officer to address the committee, please.
Program for last year and this financial year include the renewal of the Bexley tennis courts. That includes the renewal of the surfaces on 4 of the courts, upgrades to the fencing, renewal of the lighting to be LED with less glare and obtrusiveness for the neighbouring properties, and also posts and nets which will be re-implemented for future tennis. Council was successful in obtaining $600,000 under the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Grant for this project, and the funding requires that construction be completed by June 2023, and the grant has been supplemented with funding from Council's Infrastructure Levy Reserve in addition. We advertised via Tenderlink on the 22nd of June and closed on the 19th of July, and we received 5 tenders. In addition, we've also undertaken community notification of the adjacent approximately 30 residential properties, as well as including it on our website. We received no responses to the notification, and whilst we can see that there were views on the website, we've received no web or email responses either. So based on the assessment of the tender, council recommends the acceptance of a sports zone group for an amount of $904,363.76 exclusive of GST. They had the most comprehensive methodology and program. They're able to meet the timeline of the grant, and they have a vast experience in resurfacing of courts and this sort of renewal work.
Thank you. Can I ask, just for clarification, for the record, what the scope are across the courts? I acknowledge that is in the reports, but just for the record, it'd be really good to go through that briefly if we can.
So for the physical tennis courts, it's the 4 courts including drainage, so resurfacing of those courts and the subgrade, as well as the topping of that. So 2 of those are the softer grass surface, an acrylic surface, and then there's the hard acrylic courts. So that's in line with what is there currently. It's a complete like-for-like replacement. And then in addition, there'd be energy efficient lighting, so no new poles. The poles that are there are sufficient, but new LED fixtures in those poles. Upgrade of the sports fencing, so currently there's a lot of holes in the mesh and some of the posts are not sufficient. That will be upgraded, and then the actual posts and nets for playing tennis. Then some work to the tennis clubhouse, which includes the roof and gutters and make good and painting of that facility. It will also include implementing a safe roof access system, which is an Australian standard that's required for any roof of a building. And will upgrade the water and sewer connections around the building and electricity to the new facility. It also includes a resheeting of the existing car park and subsequent drainage works. At the moment, that's quite an informal car park, and that will have new asphalt drainage and line marking. There was some optional additional works which didn't come in within the budget, and those are some painting to the shelters that are adjacent, and some general building repair works and some bench seating. So we're investigating doing some of that work to our internal operational staff. And also, you may recall there was a tenancy tender to be advertised in October of this year. And that tenancy tender will have provision for the tenant to undertake some of those optional works as well.
Great. Yeah, it'd be advantageous to have those optional works done if we've got an upgraded facility with building works, etc. That is still old, so it's not going to sort of match. So if that's on the agenda to talk about as part of the tender process, I think that's advantageous. Cool. Okay, thank you. Councillors, any
Can we ask a few
questions?
questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Souness?
So we're resurfacing, we're rejigging what's already there. How many parking spaces net parking space do we have? Because at the moment, there's no line marking there. I assume it's part of the package.
That's correct. So it'll be reline marked, and it's in the order of 16 to 17 parking spaces, so, and an accessible parking space in addition.
Okay, so call it 18 spaces, that's fine. Egress, entry and exit, I don't know the opposite of egress. Entry and exit's very difficult on that road. What considerations are we allowed for? Because now we've got bits of Jersey curb and all sorts of things there to stop people going in there. There's an illegally parked truck there on the weekend. That people use it for other things at random times. Even the last few weeks ago, they had ad hoc indoor soccer or outdoor soccer, if you want to call it, in a small area. What have we thought about improving that entry and exit to make it safe, given where we are?
So we'll have to widen and improve that driveway as it is. So at the moment, it's been sort of cut in to try and streamline and stop people from going into that space. That will be improved as part of the car park renewal work. And we want to work with the tenant to see if that needs to be a secure access entry as well, because if that's going to form part of their tenancy, then we'll need to put that into the tenancy agreement for how we control the access. We don't want it to end up with people loitering in there in the evenings.
Absolutely, that's one of the problems we've had over the past few years. Now, what's the, how can I say it? When I came to council, this is one of the items lingering on as a DA, and I believe it was a DA that hadn't been committed for 6 or 7 years, almost as bad as a HEPA's, the HEPA application. What confidence do we have we're going to get a tenant there?
So the DA that went through was proposing to change use in terms of futsal and basketball and not specifically for tennis. We've undertaken the approvals as a renewal of an existing tennis facility, and we've been talking, well, our property services team have been talking to the market in general, following Much Park, a tenant there, about the types of facilities that we should be putting out and making sure that our scope aligns with what the market are looking for. So it will obviously depend on the time, what comes back, but I think that the DA didn't go through because it was proposing other items, and therefore the tenant pulled out because they could not get that DA.
The 6 years was a long time ago. Leave that aside. So the question no one here from the property team, are we going to put something into place in the tender to get the property active sooner than later? Obviously, it's going to be a turnkey operation with some minor adjustments to suit the tenant. So, speaking through the councillors here, we should put a minimum 2 or 3 months, or maximum 2 or 3 months, assignment of the lease to get it active. Otherwise, we're handing over $1 million properties and people are sitting on it until they get their ducks in order, which is totally inappropriate.
No, just to clarify, I see your point and I agree with it. Just to keep the focus on what we're talking about here is the actual tender for the renewal of the service, not the tender for the EOI. So
absolutely.
I take your point,
Absolutely.
Councillor. Yeah, and I think that's something we should investigate. We can work through the GM's office and the directors of that area. Yeah. So let's just take that on notice. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not picking
Thanks.
on anyone. I'm just saying specifically we have
Oh, look,
valuable property that we tend to sit on.
Yeah.
And it languishes.
We've got to get it going. Yep,
It's got to be activated.
agree with you. Yep. GM,
I think
you wish to
that
speak?
answer- That answer, sorry.
Through the chair, I think the difference with this project, when compared to some of our buildings where we have undertaken some works and then offered a cold shell to the market, in this case, the project will be, as you say, it'll be complete. It will be ready for an operator to walk in. So what we are aligning is the work schedule with when we go to market for an operator, and that operator, once approved by council, will be able to hit the ground running. So in terms of what Councillor Souness has asked for, there is no impediment to that being able to happen in this instance.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Najee?
I think my questions have been answered. What I understand, just clarification, that we're going to do this work, the tender, because we've got the fundings and we have to spend that money. Now, after the work is complete, I'm sure we're going for expression of interest, whatever, to see what, tenants we're going to get in there. Okay, thank you, that's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, Councillor Cedric?
Thank you so much for all that info. My only worry is that in this current climate, I've seen operators of this nature barely break even. And my fear is that potentially this might be, Councillor Souness is touching on a little bit of that, we might struggle finding a good tenant. And so, through you, Mr. Chair, maybe the questions, if we could have a look at potentially, we're going to put ourselves in this tennis arena. Are we confident and comfortable that tennis is going to bring, one, a good outcome for the community in regards to an operator, number one? Number two, if it's not, and I'm just putting it out there, are there other sports, I'm not saying basketball, but potentially
Badminton.
soccer, I'm not sure. What I'm trying to, one is safeguard the council asset. We're going to spend $1 million there, or 600 or whatever it is. And then at the end, we're going to get into a point where it's not being utilised effectively. At the end of the day, tennis, you hire the court for, $12 an hour. Is an operator going to be able to be feasible in making money so they could offer us a good outcome? So if it's not, maybe in the construction phase, we look at potentially other line markings that can work with tennis, such as in soccer, badminton, or whatever. What are your thoughts?
Can I just make one comment on that? And I touched on it earlier. The parking limitations limit how many people can come to the site. It's a long way to walk if you park at the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill. So generally, basketball requires what, five plus five? So it's 10 people alone. So you don't have enough spots.
No, but
For
we're
the
not saying
turnover.
basketball. Basketball's out of it.
I'll
But
give you an example, just so
Sure.
you're comfortable with it.
Can I-
So, sorry, councillor, I think we just need to maintain focus on the agenda item. We're really creeping out, and it's not productive in my view. I understand. I think that
Sure.
this is more of a debate when we're going to tender. The grant was applied for. The grant has been received for the renewal of these assets in its current form. There's been a scope of the project. It's all been designed. It's all been signed off, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight, to award the tender. We're not here to
Okay.
talk about and debate the tender process, the use, the market, all that sort of stuff. Very, very valid questions, I grant you, but that's not the agenda item that we hear about. So if there's the council office may wish to take notice and take that on notice, but I don't want to have any creep into this agenda item into what is
no, I hear
about
what you're saying.
construction and the actual expressions of interest in the tender itself.
Fair call. Is there? I'm with you. Is there a way though we could put that in the back of our mind when we are constructing, though?
I think it's in the back of our minds, Councillor Cedric. Yep.
Okay.
So
I'm just
is there
worried.
any-
That's all.
Is there any other speakers to this item?
We can take out the posts and remark it if you like.
So we'll now vote on the item. All those in favour, say aye. Against, say no. I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to now the second item on the report, which has a confidential attachment. So there is no members of the public present, and I move that that we close this, move into a confidential session. If I can have a mover, please. Councillor Curry, second by Councillor Flato. We move into a closed session, and we'll resume at the end of that discussion. Well, we have to vote to open it first. So
Ah,
moved by
sorry.
Councillor Curry, seconded by Councillor Najee. All those in favour say aye. Declare that carried. We'll now wait to resume the open meeting.
We're online? Yep, online. Yep.
We're live?
Yeah.
Thank
2,
you.
3, go.
Need the countdown and the tag. Thank you, councillors. So just, sorry, do we state the outcome of that last agenda item?
Yes.
Okay. So the outcome of the last agenda item, now that we have resumed, was the motion was passed. If we can just have that
Can we scroll
on the
motion to
screen.
proceed?
Just scroll back up, please. So the motion that was passed, laggy, that's okay. So the committee's recommendation that was endorsed was that the council thanks local artists Gilly and Mark for their very generous offer of a substantial donation through the government's culture gift program. And 2, that council completes an assessment of the donation and applies the public arts policy and reports the outcome of that assessment to the next corporate performance committee meeting.
Yep.
Thank you, councillors. We're now at the conclusion of the meeting, and there being no further items, I declare the meeting closed at 7:12 p.m.